Morning, and I'm very happy to be here attending the NNN Conference of 2020. We are going to start off with just a few housekeeping notes to go over the way the meeting will be run. Now, as you enter the room, you will notice that your audio and video have been turned off. We ask you to please keep your audio on mute to keep the background noise to a minimum. And please note, all sessions will be recorded so that people can watch these sessions after the fact, because I know there's a lot to choose from, and it's good to have this recorded for other people to view. If you have any issues during the event, please go to your email and go to admin@nnnevents.com, and they will help you get into the meeting. And if you lose connectivity, and you want to come back into the meeting, just go back to the NNN platform and rejoin the meeting. Now for breakout rooms at the end of this session, when you go into the group work, you will automatically be moved to the breakout group by one of the MIT team. And there's no action required from yourself. Once you are in the breakout room, please turn on your video so we can all see who you are. And you may also unmute yourself when you wish to speak and participate. Please do take note of your facilitator. So I will be the facilitator of one of the breakouts, and Afterwork will be the facilitator of the other. And if you will tell the MIT team, they will get you back to your appropriate breakout room. Once the group work is completed, you will be returned automatically to the main room after a 60-second warning. So you need to get all the key points that you want to provide in the breakout in the report out section then. We also ask that you switch your video and audio off upon returning to the main room. Okay, now my name is Cassandra Holloway, and I work with the Children Without Worms at the Task Force for Global Health, and I'm also the facilitator of a group called the NTD Supply Chain Forum. We are all part of the forum, and we give talks about the end-to-end supply chain at any meetings that we can get to, because we feel it's important that you understand the end-to-end supply chain. We will be joined by Dr. Afterwork Techley from WHO Geneva, Modest Thimbones from WHO Aspro, and Tiana Williams from GSK. She's in charge of the donation program for albendazole. Now, during this presentation, we're going to go over the importance of the end-to-end supply chain. Then we will have me giving an overview of the first mile supply chain and a practical session on 2 of the tools that we have available. Then we'll go into the last mile overview with Afterwork, and he will provide all the information you'd like to know on that. Then we will have a breakout session. Please note that during our presentations, if you could please take the time to write chat any information that you would like to know more on, questions or concerns that you have about supply chain. If you could type it into the chat, we will use that in the breakout sessions. So the breakout sessions will be 10 minutes for answering questions and answers, and then 10 minutes for getting some information on best practices from you. Tiana, would you please start our presentation?
Sure. Thank you so much, Cassandra. It's a pleasure to be here, and I just want to thank everyone who presented today and who is interested in this space. So the Supply Chain Forum and the work we have been doing is very much focused, or has been focused, on PC, or preventative chemotherapy medicines. And the 6 medicines donated by different pharma companies are listed on this slide with a little bit of extra information. Going forward, the forum is actually looking at expanding this further beyond PC NTDs, but to include other donations that go through WHO for NTDs. If you go to the next slide, Cassandra. So the Supply Chain Forum was something that Cassandra and I worked together to establish in some 8-9 years ago now. It has been a real success story. It started off with, I think, something like 4 people, and over the years it expanded to 40 participants from a number of different organizations. So it's been a real success for the NTD family. The focus focus of the forum is really primarily on delivery of NTD donations from the manufacturer or pharmaceutical companies to the country's central medical stores, which we refer to as the first mile of the process. The forum also responds to potential in-country supply chain management challenges, and where support may be further required, we tend to respond and work together with partners in what we call the last mile. Go ahead, Cassandra. So some of you already know, but the end-to-end supply chain is a chain of a number of different steps, which all need to take place at the right time. They need to be actioned by the right individuals, and they need to be processed correctly in order for supplies to arrive to countries in time and to reach patients who need them. Of course, we will go down the route of explaining each of these steps and some of the challenges that we face, which of course can cause delays and something that we all work towards trying to avoid. If you just show the next slide, Cassandra, we have actually worked to produce a little short video which takes you through the process all the way from active pharmaceutical ingredient manufacture to mass drug administration. So we're going to share that with you for better understanding of what does it really involve. Thank you. Go ahead.
The NTD supply chain is a complex global network contributing to the fight against neglected tropical diseases around the world. More than 1 billion treatments have been donated and distributed to more than 70 countries. They are used to prevent, control, and even eliminate NTDs, saving lives and giving hope for a better tomorrow. Producing the donated medicines is a complicated process that can take months to complete. It starts at various manufacturing sites around the world, where raw materials are sourced to create the active pharmaceutical ingredient, or API. Next, the API is shipped to countries like India and South Africa, where it's processed into tablets. Quality assurance and control is paramount every step of the way.
I work as a machine operator. I hope we are helping people to live their lives better.
The medicines head to packaging and labeling. Every detail, such as bottle size and label design, makes a difference in the success of the supply chain. Now, the finished product is ready for dispatch. Logistics providers transport the medicines by land, sea, or air to dozens of recipient countries, dealing with customs clearance at every port of entry. Once shipments arrive at central medical stores, the NTD medicines are carefully checked and then allocated to district hospitals and community health centers throughout the country. Packages travel by truck, motorcycle, or even a traditional boat. Community health workers use every means possible to get the job done.
As you can see, the area is hard to reach area. Sometimes we don't have functioning bicycles. We do move, we do walk with the drugs in our hands. So that's a big challenge.
Their job is to ensure that every eligible person in every endemic region receives medication, so the goal of elimination and control can be met.
The hard-working spirit of health workers really have made a way forward in regard to elimination.
Once the health workers reach their local villages, the Mass Drug Administration, or MDA, springs into action. For each and every tablet that's taken, months of planning, production and distribution have gone into ensuring that people most in need get access to medicines. The end-to-end supply chain would not be possible without a shared vision of a future worth fighting for.
It's just by heart. I just love saving people.
Thank you, Cassandra.
Okay, now thank you very much, Tiana, for that nice overview of the end-to-end supply chain. I'm now going to go over the first mile supply chain. And of course, the first mile is from the receipt of the orders by the pharma donor to the delivery of the medicine to the countries via either the port or direct delivery to the central medical store. Donations of albendazole through GSK, ivermectin through MSD, mebendazole through Johnson & Johnson, and praziquantel through Merck Germany are delivered directly to the central medical stores. Donations for Zithromax through ITI and Pfizer and DEC through ASI are delivered only to the ports. Now, I'm going to go over a quick process before we go into the first mile, and this is the drug forecast. The drug forecast is provided by the country receiving the treatments for NTDs. The forecast is anywhere from 12 months to 3 years of medicines that is required for the mass drug administrations. We will go over the forecast again a little bit in the last mile. The importance of the forecast, of course, it is utilized by the donation programs, WHO, ITI, MDP, and others to prioritize orders. There is over 1.5 billion treatments a year that are being provided to the countries. And these can conclude up to 150 orders. So there needs to be some pretty heavy prioritization to get all the medicines to the countries in time. And this is utilized by the pharma donors to secure capacity, such as the active pharmaceutical ingredient, and then to provide a manufacturing schedule to create the pills, and then to create a shipping plan. I know the GSK receives 60 or more orders every year. Now, this is the quick supply chain of just the first mile and some of the issues that can occur, like order production. If we get too many purchase orders, we might not have the capacity to get them all out. We will go over all these different steps as we move along in the presentation. So let's begin the first mile process with the issuance of the order to the approving body, from the approving body to the disease-specific program pharmaceutical company. The pharma company will then process the order, including entering all information necessary to provide the treatments to the country. The pharma company will also send out a notification to the country that they received the order and that they will be preparing the shipment. The medicine is then produced, bottled, labeled, and packaged for the order. As you saw in the video, this process can be incredibly complicated. In this last photo on the left, you will see the order has been packaged into what we call pallets, and it's ready to be placed on the boat. As soon as that order has been palletized, it is now locked to your specific country, and it cannot be used by any other country. The next step is the green light from the consignee. The green light is an approval from a country's consignee to ship the medicine. Please note that you'll hear this word consignee. Consignee is the program that is receiving the order, and it can be the WHO or the Ministry of Health, depending on the donation program. A green light is required for all MDP river blindness orders and all ITI trachoma orders. Now over here on the left, you can see a checklist that is provided identifying all the steps that have to be completed before they can put that shipment on a boat. Now, the green light for WHO is a little different. So they have a couple of requirements for providing a green light to the country. One is a container inspection. Mozambique has to have a container inspection at the pharmaceutical port as well as the port of entry. Import permits. Ethiopia has to have an import permit before they can receive any donated medicines. Some countries have a very complicated clearance process. They have to meet many requirements to get drugs cleared through customs. And then some countries have limited storage space. They may have massive drug donations for all of the different programs, and that space is limited. Now, some key documents that you will see in the shipping include the certificate of analysis, the certificate of donation, the certificate of origin, the invoice or no cost invoice, the packing list, airway bill, and you can also get a seaway bill. Now, these are some of the documents that are provided with that green light so that you will be able to obtain all information needed to get the shipment into your country through customs. Once the green light is given, the donor will then book the transportation with the freight forwarder. The freight forwarder will then provide all the shipping donation information to the donating body. This includes when the shipment will be placed on a boat, the anticipated shipping date. They will also give the anticipated arrival date into port and other information. This information will then all go into a package called a shipping advice to be provided to the consignee. So all those documents that you saw that they were provided in email, they will now get a hard copy of those documents, and it will be provided for them to go get their customs clearance information. Now we go into the customs clearance document that is obtained by the consignee with those documents. The consignee applies for customs clearance documents for their port and border crossings. Some examples of these documents that are required include a tax exemption waiver. That's probably the one you know the most. It's the one that gets all shipments into your country tax and duty free. And the Federal Ministry of Finance may have a waiver. Ministry of Health may need to stamp all the documents to get the approval through customs, and there may be other processes that must be followed. Now, it is the responsibility of the country receiving the NTD PC medicines to identify and obtain the country-specific documents that are required to clear the shipment through customs. So the consignee must know this information and be prepared to have it available as soon as the shipment arrives in your country. Now, the consignee documents, you think, why is it important? Why is it important to have these clearance documents? One, the most important reason is that delay in providing the shipment on time to the MDA. So every day that that shipment is trapped in customs, it is not on the road to the MDAs. And the medicines go through many stages, far more many stages in the last mile than they do in the first. So they will enter the warehouse, then they will go into the districts, then they will go into the community and down to even village level. We want to have the most time available for that. The second concern is over safety of the stock if it's detained in customs. While customs storage is secure, there is always the potential of loss of medicine if the shipment sits at any storage facility for too long. And finally, there are additional costs related to having a shipment sit in customs. And these can be costs to the consignee, the WHO, or the donor for these delays. Now, I have seen up to $250 a day per container assessed while the shipment is waiting to be cleared through customs. This money could be much better spent in the program or than being provided to a commercial agency. Once a consignment is cleared through customs, so the freight forwarder has all the donor shipping documents and they have all the customs clearance documents. It clears anywhere between 2 days and 7 days at most. If a consignment hasn't cleared in 7 days, you know that there's something going on within this clearance process, that maybe a document is missing or a process hasn't been followed. And once the consignment is cleared, the freight forwarder will then book the transport to the central medical store. Please note that the donor is responsible for the albendazole, ivermectin, mebendazole, and praziquantel for providing the freight forwarder to provide the medicines directly to the central medical store. The consignments for Zithromax and DEC are provided by the consignee. Delivery to the central medical store. As soon as that shipment arrives at the central medical store, it is now the consignee's responsibility to offload the shipment from the trucks. Now, you need to have a forklift available for large shipments. Ethiopia can receive up to 4 container loads, and you need to have the proper personnel to help get that shipment off the trucks and then recorded and placed on the shelving. Now, any delays will incur a truck demurrage charge. This is just a charge for that truck having to sit at the warehouse waiting to be offloaded and when it could be doing other work. So it is very important that this be offloaded as quickly as possible. Okay, I want to now go over the tools of the first mile supply chain. Now there are two tools available for the first mile. There's NT Deliver and there's the Zithromax Shipment Tracker. The Zithromax Shipment Tracker was actually one of the first shipment trackers of its kind. Now, NT Deliver is an instant tracking for select PC medicines from the receipt of the order by the donor to the fulfillment of the order and then the final delivery in the country. You can access this online through www.ntdeliver.com/country, and you can also subscribe for weekly emails. Now I'm going to show you a quick live demonstration of the tool. This is NT Deliver, and you can select a countries here. And on this page, you have a couple of things that you can do. First, you've got, it is in English, French, and Spanish to help you out. You can subscribe directly to the emails. You have indicators on disease-specific information, including soil-transmitted helminthiasis, STH or intestinal worms, and schistosomiasis, and the populations requiring treatment. You have a small map. Then we have the purchase orders that are available within the system. You have all the batches that are in the country, including when they will expire, which can be very useful for your warehousers. And then you have applications that have been received and submitted for WHO applications. This includes MDA dates and when the application was due. Now we're going to go back up to the top. I have went ahead, you've got a hide show column, and I have reduced this down to some of the important factors that follow along with the presentation. You can choose the year, the program, the select medicine, or your purchase order number. Now we start off with the purchase order number, and then I go into the stages. Now everything is sortable. So I'm going to sort these. These are delivered, these are in shipping, and this is yet to be shipped, but it's in process. This is the year of the MDA. This is the drug that you will be receiving. This is the quantity of medicine that you will be receiving. And at the very end, it will tell you what program is receiving these drugs. Now we're going to go over the stages, the first mile, which we said in the beginning was the packing list is received. So the order has been placed and it is now sitting in the warehouse at the donor, waiting to be shipped. So as soon as that green light is given, the shipment will be given a booked, and this will be the actual shipment date. So this is the date that the shipment was placed on a vessel to your country. Between actual shipment date and actual arrival date is the time it takes to transport that via sea. All these shipments are sea shipments, or it could be by air. So this is important because you can use this to assess how long it takes your particular drug to get across the ocean. Once it's arrived in the port, you have the actual delivery date. This is the date that it arrived at the central medical store. So between these two dates is all that processes of customs clearance. So if the shipment has arrived on this date and all the customs clearance documents and shipping documents are available at customs, it should clear this through this no more than a week. Now, if you see that it's taking 2 to 3 weeks for it to clear to this stage, you might want to reach out to the Ministry of Health or the WHO or even the donor and find out what is causing the issue. Now I'm going to show you quickly. You also have the ability to go into what is called a view-only purchase order. Please, I hope you're writing in comments on any questions you might have on the system, and I will answer them later. Now you go to a view-only purchase order, and the main thing I want to show you here is the PO package, because you can see that for this order, these are the specific batches that were provided to you for this order. This can be very useful for your for your warehouser. They can go in here and know exactly what the expiration date is and what the batches are and how many boxes were provided. The shipping details just give you some additional details, including how many containers you're receiving, the container number, which can be used for other tracking. It also has information in notes. Here you can see that the Nigerian shipment, that due to the COVID crisis, they had to delay their MDA until they were ready to complete the MDA, and they rescheduled it. Down here, you just have a list of documents that are available and other information. Now we will go. Alrighty. Okay, the next tool is the Zithromax tracker. The Zithromax tracker is a way for partners to receive updates of the status of the ITI donation from the respective countries. This is from the signage of the annual document to the agreement to the delivery of the drugs at the port of destination. Now you have the ability to go into their subscriptions and sign up for the specific country that you would like to receive weekly emails. And once again, both trackers will not send you emails unless something is in process. Now we're going to go into the country page for the Nigerian shipments through the Zithromax tracker. We're going to 2020. In here you can see that they have approved 4.8 million treatments. But they do have some contingent approvals that they're waiting for. Funding or partners have not yet been confirmed. They are waiting impact surveys and some special concerns. But currently they do have one shipment that's getting ready to be shipped this month, and it'll be sent via air. When shipping via air, it is usually shipped directly in the month or the month before the MDA. And you also see that 790,000 tablets are going to be provided. And their shipment tracker also has a level of what's going on as it ships through the system. You can see in 2018 that this slider has fully filled out. Okay. All right, now we are going to be joined by we're going to be joined by Afwork Deckley. He is the Afwork is the Strategic Operations Unit Head for WHO Geneva, their NTD department and headquarters. He provides managerial and technical and strategic leadership to the at all global level operations. Afwork, could you please provide your presentation? Thank you. And say next when you're ready for me.
Okay, thank you, Cassandra, for the introduction. So I will follow on the next step after the medicines are arrived. Next slide, please. Then this is last mile supply chain. So as you can see, once it is arrived in the country, as Cassandra said, some of the medicine arrived to the warehouse of the central medical store as a doorstep, or they may be as a port. So the challenge also there, if it is in the close to the central medical store, that's well, but sometimes the country has to take it from the port to the central medical store. So this is also one of the challenges. Anyway, as you can see here, there are several steps which are very important once the medicine arrives in the country. So I will go through all the steps or some of the major steps outlined here, and also present some of the challenges that we are facing in the implementation of this last mile supply chain. Next slide. So the medicine, after they have arrived in the central medical store, they have to go through some procedures. So once they are arrived, they have to be inspected and also counted. They have to look at if there is any damage or how is the expiry status, if there is also any problem with the packaging. Then the Ministry of Health have to sign a delivery note so that the consignee will take and report back to the donors. Then in this, as you can see from this one, this is the best store that we can see, but it's not always like this in most of the countries that we supply. So storage space is one issue, and storage condition is another problem, and the security issue, the temperature, how it is stored is also some of the challenges that we see. Sometimes we face also problem after the medicine get to the door of the central medical store, there may not be space to accommodate, and those medicine may stay outside for a few days until they get some space, and that condition is not monitored, and it has impact on the potency of the medicine, and you know that's another problem. Next slide, please. Then inside, after it is stored in the central medical store, or even at district or regional medical store, one of the big challenges that we face is also not complying the FIFO principle, that is first expiry, first out method. So this is a well-known method for logistic management, pharmaceutical management in medical stores. So always we need to use the one that is going to be expiring very soon, than, you know, not based on the time, how long that medicine was stored in that facility. But usually for the convenience, a lot of pharmacy department, they just take out those medicines that is close to probably the door, ignoring the one that is behind. So there is a special way of arranging medicine based on the expiry date. Those which is arriving soon should always be at the back. So this principle usually not respected, and this affect a lot of problems. One, we may lose those medicine due to expiry, or by storing them for a long time, we also affect the quality, and also we may not report back on the proper utilization of the medicine, which affect our relationship with pharmaceutical donors. Next, please. Then inventory management is also very important step, whether it is in the central medical store, regional medical store, or district medical store. Before this medicine are delivered to peripheral health facility, community, or school, they are usually stored in those facilities, and inventory management should be done at all levels. This is very important to track the drug at every stage before the medicine. Also, after the MDA, we will come very soon about the reverse logistic. So even in that process, inventory management is a key. So we should be knowledgeable where the medicine are at every step, and how they are stored, and how they are transported. And one of the thing also that we have to do is visual inspection, and not relying on the report. So if there is any damage or expired stock, we have to get rid of them, isolate them separately. Also, we have to account why this is happening at that level. And having a very good inventory system, we will have a very good accurate reporting, and we ensure the management carefully. Next. Reverse logistic is one of the big challenges now that we face in most of our MDA operation. After a medicine or MDA campaign have happened, we have to return those medicines that has not used to a next level. For example, if it is in the community, in the school, they have to collect those medicines that's not utilized, either it is opened or an open bottle, to health facility. Then health facility also need to aggregate that and send it to the district. Usually what is recommended is those lower facility, storage facility, where there is a better store, where temperature and medicines are adequately available for the next redistribution or reuse for the next round of MDA. The biggest challenge is that usually this step also requires a budget. Once you have done the MDA, most of the time we focus only on the treatment report, only getting the numbers, but we just forget about the available balance. This number is very important because in our next request, we have to account how many balance that you have or leftover you have that could be used for the next round of MDA. Without that, your request may not be accepted once you request for the next treatment. So that is a very important step. Another challenge we have is we don't have a responsible person, or we don't give responsibility on this step of the reverse logistic. And this is really one of the big challenges in the last mile after we have done the MDA. Next slide, please. Then related to the reverse logistic, one of the big issue is also reporting back to the next higher level. You may have a reverse logistic, the treatment figure is there, but if you don't report it to the next higher level and it comes to the central level where all this information is aggregated before requesting or reporting to the next MDA or medicine request, reporting is very important. Most of the time, as I said earlier, we usually focus only on treatment numbers, but we need to also report the balances of the next, the balances of the leftover medicine. Because this is very important step. One of the things that we miss also, there is no clear SOP as to how the reporting is done, including the treatment and also the reverse logistic. Usually there should be a timeline when the health facility or the CDDs report to health facility aggregate it back to the district, as the district also aggregates those report and balances and report to the next level. This is a missing link that we see in most of the time. In countries where there is good logistic information management system, this is not a big problem. But for those countries where we don't have this kind of system, that is a big problem when they are reporting back to WHO and to pharmaceutical donors. Next slide. Then after all this has been done, then you are going to also prepare your request. That is the quantification. You have to estimate your demand. But the most important thing here, when you estimate your demand based on your epidemiological situation and treatment round and so on, you have to also make sure that you have the existing stock reported. Most of the time, when country submits their request, the biggest challenge WHO country office or regional office is facing is not accounting to all medicine that they have taken the previous years. That is a big challenge. So quantification is the most important step, but the most missing information is the balance from the previous stock. Okay. So related to this also, we do annual forecasting. Cassandra has already touched on this. Before we request and go to the first mile, one of the most important steps is also quantifying based on evidence. For example, what is the endemicity level? Some countries, they request, even though the STH level is very low, below the threshold of MDA requirement, but still they request the same amount every time. If they do some kind of survey, that information should be reflected to change the endemicity level of the district. And this also determines the number of rounds, whether they need this treatment next year or not. But usually this information is not reflected in their request. So this is another challenge that we face in country requests, because they are not using the information they have collected in their application for next round of treatment. Another area is also demographic data. Every year we face variability. This year, maybe 100,000 population in a district. Next year, either it decrease or increase. So it is very difficult and to on reliability of this information, and having a very reliable demographic information is very, very important. Next, Cassandra. So one of the steps in delaying medicine delivery on time is your application. If you have good application addressing all of the information that I have said earlier, including in-country inventory, your application will be approved fast, and you will get your medicine for the next round. But usually this is not happening, and submission and approval process usually take longer. Sometimes even we see 3 months, 4 months, which is really unnecessary, because if you address all the issues as I have said before, this will be a fast process that we see. Next. Okay, so there are some tools that we are trying to develop for the last mile supply chain. One is the stock management tool. As I have said earlier, one of the big problems is inventory management, and there is no electronic logistic management information system at the lower level. So we are trying to produce a simple Excel tool where national program, even regional and district program can use to have their inventory up to date if it is appropriately utilized. Another activity where the supply chain forum is working hard this year is development of SOPs, standard operating procedure toolkit for supply chain management. So this has 11 SOPs. So as you can see, most of the things that Cassandra and myself has discussed are here. So these are most of the bottleneck we have identified, and we are trying to produce an SOP for Ministry of Health to utilize to address some of the challenges. Out of the 11 SOP you see here, 8 of them are for the last mile, and that indicates to you that we have a big challenges at the last mile supply chain in NTD program. Okay, I think that is next slide.
Oops.
Okay. Yeah, so I have done the last mile. Thank you very much, Cassandra.
Thank you. Very good. I truly appreciate you taking the time to outline the last mile. All right, now we're going to go into the breakout sessions. So the breakout sessions are going to be divided into 2 sessions, the first mile and the last mile session. At the beginning of the breakout sessions, we would really like to answer any questions you have. or any thoughts you have on the first mile and or the last mile. And then we would like to discuss any best practices or strategies that you have for supply chain within your country. So we would have 10 minutes for the Q&A and then the remaining time for identifying best practices. Now, what we would like to get out of the session is oops, my clicker stopped. Is that we are going to come up with some key points on first mile and last out from the breakout session, and we will then report them to the team in our closing session. So there will be a 10-minute session where we'll explain what key points we have available. Now, it would be wonderful if we could get some clear-cut guidelines that you think that we could work on to either improve the tools or any of the processes within the first mile and last mile supply chain, including, do you understand the steps of the green mile, the green light? And I would love to know what steps you understand, and then we can make sure that all the stages through the supply chain is understood fully by the community. Okay, thank you. And right now, MIT will start breaking us out into our groups. So much for that. I said, hey, everybody, thank you for coming back to our session. I hope your breakout was fruitful and you came up with some really good strategies for possibly making the supply chain even stronger. So we're definitely interested in your input, and we will go ahead and we will start with the first mile and give you a little report out, and then Momeen will give us a report out on the last mile. Now, during our conversation, we had a lot of people that were very interested in the tool, of course, the NTD Deliver and the Zithromax tracker. So we will definitely be providing links to all participants to those two sources of tracking software so that the medicine can be tracked within the countries. And we also had a few groups that would like to share our experience within the countries as far as customs clearance and other types of getting the drugs into the system. So we have full intentions of reaching out to them with our knowledge and expertise, and we can also provide information that's country specific on our experience and providing the supply into the country. So those are some of the clear guidelines that we can promote. Improvements to the supply chain, because we always feel that improvements to one source of supply is an improvements to all sources of supply. And of course, we've also had a big discussion about single source deliveries of medicine. So how can we work with governments to see if it's possible that instead of the supply chain being segregated into different sources, like maybe the NTD medicines have their own supply chain, and then all the country, other medicines have another supply chain. How can those be integrated? And that could be an advocacy discussion with the ministries of health about how we can make this happen. And Tiana said it would be great to have some best practices available across country that we can share. And maybe we can do better jobs in standardization. And that's our report out. So Momeen, do you ready?
Yes, thank you so much, Cassandra. During the breakout session number 2, in regard to the last mile, we discussed about management of stock in Nigeria, which is mostly manual, and the supply chain, the drug management tool was presented by Modest, and it was mentioned that it will be shared with the countries, starting from the central level, going to the regional level, and the last mile. And everyone will be trained on the tool to ensure that it's properly used. We know that there are certain tools in countries that are not used because of lack of training or lack of, I would say, knowledge around that tool. So Modest mentioned that we will ensure that everybody is trained at each level, and so this tool can be fully implemented. So also, we discussed about the health system in countries where, let me see here. Now, we discussed about the open LMIs. That was a question from David, I think. He was asking if it will be implemented and at the last mile, and then the answer was yes. But the plan is not to create something parallel from what is existing already. The goal is to incorporate, you know, whatever new tool that is developed to ensure that it is used within the supply chain system that is existing in countries. Another issue with the last mile is the staff transition at health facility levels. We mentioned that several times, but I think we did not have chance to go further on that. Also, during this session, we mentioned the 11 SOPs that are being developed, and 8 of them are dedicated to the last mile. So they are available in French, English, and Portuguese, and they will be made available at all levels. So countries will be, I would say, engaged and implicated in the rollout of that SOPs. Mainly, Modest mentioned that we already invited countries to participate in the review of the SOPs. So, and the process is going so well at this moment, but we are looking forward to receiving the feedback from countries.
Oh.
Ashley, is there any other point? I see here you are typing. Is there any other point that I did not mention?
I think you covered it, unless Joseph wanted to share what he was trying to say before we got cut off.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Ashley. Joseph was sharing his experience of the post-MDA's activities in Nigeria, but we got cut off because of the time. But we will get a chance to, you know, to touch base with him so he can share his experience. I already sent him a message so he can share his experience in Nigeria with us. I think there was Okum as well. Afterwork. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, no, I just want to add some thing on Nigeria before we move to another one. The best experience that we have seen, what Joseph has said was they have developed a tracker for the treatment and also for the medicine balance while conducting MDA. I think that is the best best experience that and the strategy that we see from Nigeria. Related to that also, UCAM has identified their challenges before, but in 2019, they have focused on reverse logistic and has a good planning ahead of that, and they have provided budget, and that helps them in getting better reverse logistic and an accounted balance after MDA. This is the thing, but also there was a Senegal experience on reverse logistic, which has an example to other countries that was mentioned by Modest. I just want to add on what you have said, Mumi.
Thank you so much. And also Modest mentioned that the experience from Senegal will be shared with other countries. Senegal has a very well organized post-MD activities in reverse logistics.
May I have 1 minute, please, Cassandra?
Yes, you may. We've got a good 5 minutes left, so we've got some time.
Okay, thank you very much. I was just going to talk about the proposed solutions or some alternative that we need to have to improve the last mile. For example, regarding regarding the storage and warehousing, we need to work with countries to do advocacy for compliance with WHO good storage and distribution practices. And there is a need to strengthen the quality assurance across the storage and warehousing of NTD medicines. And also, as we are talking about SOPs, it is important to make sure that the SOPs are rolled out, SOPs on the stock management, warehousing, and storage. We also, regarding the stock and inventory, as we mentioned earlier, it's important to implement stock management tool and inventory reporting tool. And we also need to strengthen the physical inventory counts. Countries are not really accustomed to this, but we need to train them, provide them capacity building, and we also need to provide them the strategy, the inventory analysis, because it's something that is lacking. They do analysis of treatment, but without really focusing on inventory analysis, inventory report analysis, and flagging out inventory issues. And we also need to integrate, we also need to advocate for integration of NTD medicine into existing LMIS. And we have to really build the country's capacities on the accountability and responsibility concept. And regarding the FAFO, it's important that we also continue to train countries. SOPs, having SOPs is good, but if we don't train them and supervise them, we are still going to have the issues, because if we don't make sure that they are implementing what is written on the SOPs, there might not be positive changes. And in some countries, regarding the transportation, at the regional level, ESPN has been able to provide some funding for the transportation of medicine to the region or to the district. And this is only for exceptional cases. And it is important to have or to strengthen a strong coordination with implementing partners and funding and funders, so that funding issues can be solved on time to avoid expiries or postponement of NDA due to lack of funding availability. And then also regarding the reports, it's also important to train countries and provide technical assistance, and also advocate for involvement of implementing partners and commitment of relevant stakeholders at the country level, and so they can be able to support the countries or the MOH, the NTD programs, to be able to reach or to achieve the expected objective in terms of supply chain management. And knowing that supply chain for them is not a big aspect they focus on, but we have to build that capacities and make that concept really strong as in other health programs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we're very excited to have Modest with us, because he is the new supply chain officer at ESPN, and he is really working diligently on that last mile space. So consider him a resource if you have questions. Now, you may also go ahead, if you have anything that you would like to, that we didn't make clear, that you need more information, please feel free to reach out to me, Cassandra Holloway, and that's cholloway@taskforce.org. I can then field your questions and provide it to the appropriate team member so that they can respond to any questions you might have. We can also look, if you have any requests for any kind of training sessions, we can always have a little online WhatsApp meeting or any meetings to discuss the supply chain further with your group. So please feel free to give me an email if you have any questions at all. And our session is now at its end. I want to thank each of the speakers as well for joining me in this presentation. It was absolutely excellent. I hope that you and all the participants also have enjoyed this. And oops, I got my last slide here. And of course, we want to thank all the sponsors of the NNN. If it wasn't for the sponsors, we wouldn't be able to have these lovely sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassandra.
Thank you, Cassandra, for facilitation.
Thank you, Cassandra. Thank you, Afrowork and Tijana.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank you,
guys.
Modest.
Okay.
Well,